And then you were back in Ghana, and subsequently, having trained, worked hard, been very proud of yourself as a young officer. We heard of the 1966 coup. You know, Nkrumah and the CPP, they had been big. You were still in the army. Were you close to all the events? How close were you?
We have gone through terrible, as a nation. The youth of this country today should be grateful they didn't see what I saw.
What did you see?
You talk about the coup of 1966. Ghana had been independent in 57. There was an attempted coup, and then 58. And others, people like Aram Ponsari were arrested and locked up. But the big one was 1966, when a man called kotoka, Afrifa and others, from 2 Brigade in Kumasi, in joint movement with the 1 Brigade under Nkrumah at that time, overthrew the Nkrumah regime. You know, it was a terrible, terrible thing. But General Bauer, I don't know, I'm sure you haven't heard him. Bauer was the army commander at the time. That night, he was killed. I was actually on duty when the shooting started at Burma camp. So I rang General Bauer. I knew him very well. I was a young officer from Shanghai, not long ago. And I called him on the phone and said, "Sir, there's a problem, and I think there's a big problem. Mountain. I don't know exactly what it was." And he said, "Oh, thank you. You used to call me Nunu. Thank you very much." Next moment, I heard a burst of gunfire, a very powerful machine gun from his area there. So I called to find out how he was. And the woman answered the phone, being a wife. I said, "Madam, where's the General Bauer?" And I'm quoting her. She said, "The general has just been shot, dead." That I knew that there was a bigger trouble than I thought.
In the early morning of 1956, February?
Yes, 26 February. And it started with a man called, for the Guinea Regiment, at Teshi. You know, it didn't look, I didn't know how it could look like. But then when the general had been shot, then I knew that we were in a bigger trouble than I thought. Then it unfolded until in the morning, it became clear that Nkrumah had been overthrown. He was on the way to Hanoi in North Vietnam. He was in China at the time, in Peking, when this happened. So it has been, a very difficult period for people like me who were in the army at the time. But that even wasn't a bigger one. There for 1967, when two young officers called, I think, Ayabua and Arthur, tried to seize power. And then they grabbed somehow, Kotoka had been the commander of the army, took him somewhere at the airport. That's another game which people are talking about it, and shot General Kotoka. How they did it, I couldn't imagine this. Kotoka's body was found at the airport.